It disfigured popes, drove kings insane, and turned lovers into lepers. This disease didn't just rot your body, it stole your sanity and your soul. A silent scourge, creeping through the veins of history, left its victims scarred, shunned, and spiraling into madness. Syphilis, a name whispered in dread, was no mere affliction. It was a moral condemnation, a plague that branded its sufferers as pariahs in a world unforgiving of sin. For 5 centuries, it carved a path of devastation across Europe, its grotesque sores and shattered minds a testament to nature's cruel indifference. What dark alchemy allowed a microscopic foe to outwit the human body, lurking undetected for decades before unleashing its final, horrifying act? Behind the veil of shame and science lies a tale of suffering, stigma, and secrets buried in the annals of time. This is the story of Syphilis, a grim chronicle of humanity's frailty, waiting to be unearthed. If you dare look closer, step into the shadows. In the twilight of the 15th century, as Europe stood on the cusp of a new age, a sinister plague emerged from the shadows of war and conquest. Syphilis, first whispered in the alleys of Naples, swept through the continent with a ferocity unmatched since the Black Death. Its arrival, borne on the boots of soldiers and the sails of explorers, marked a grim chapter in human history. From the courts of kings to the hovels of the poor, no one was spared its touch. King Charles VIII of France, whose ambition drove his armies into Italy, unknowingly carried this scourge back to his realm, his name forever entwined with its spread. Behind the sores and stigma lay a tale of science, suffering, and secrets, a chronicle of a disease that mocked morality and medicine alike. This dark history now unfolds. In the autumn of 1494, the port of Naples quaked beneath the tread of French boots, as war's grim shadow fell upon Italy. King Charles VIII, a monarch of youthful ambition, led his army into the heart of the Renaissance, his eyes fixed on conquest and glory. Yet, amidst the clash of steel and the cries of victory, an unseen foe slipped into the ranks, a pestilence that would taint his name and sear itself into the annals of history. Syphilis, christened the Naples disease, was born in the squalor of soldiers' camps and the fleeting embraces of courtesans' chambers. To the devout, it was divine retribution for sins of the flesh. To the afflicted, a scarlet mark of shame that branded them outcasts in a merciless world. Charles VIII, once celebrated as a warrior king, became a figure of whispered suspicion. His court, glittering with ambition, grew heavy with unease as rumors of strange maladies spread. Lesions, concealed beneath royal robes, and bouts of faltering vigor hinted at a body betrayed by an insidious curse. Was this the price of his Italian triumph, a scourge carried home from the battlefields of Naples? By 1495, the disease had clawed its way across Europe, from the bustling markets of Paris to the shadowed alleys of London. No rank was spared. Neither peasant nor prince could escape its grasp. Sailors, returning from the New World, bore the contagion across oceans, seeding misery in distant lands. In the flickering candlelight of taverns and palaces, fear took root. Whispers of the pox filled the air, as communities turned on the afflicted, casting them out as moral lepers. In the courts, advisors grew wary, their glances sharp with suspicion, while priests thundered sermons of divine wrath. The disease, relentless and indiscriminate, wove itself into the fabric of society, its sores a visible testament to hidden sins. Art and poetry of the age began to reflect its grim presence. Haunting woodcuts depicted skeletal figures, their flesh marred by grotesque wounds, while ballads mourned the fall of the virtuous. Yet this was but the prelude to a horror far greater, a silent predator lurking within, its true devastation yet to unfold. No fortress of flesh could withstand the cunning of Treponema pallidum, the invisible architect of Syphilis's terror. This spirochete, a spiral of malevolent precision, twists like a corkscrew through the soft tissues of its human host, a delicate predator, too fragile to survive beyond the warmth of a living body. Unlike the robust bacteria that thrive in soil or water, this elusive microbe claims humanity as its sole dominion, a grim legacy stretching across 5 centuries. Its fragility is its strength, for it shuns the open air, seeking instead the intimate shadows of mucosal surfaces, where lips meet or skin breaks in moments of forbidden closeness. There, it excretes an enzyme, a silent saboteur that dissolves collagen, carving a path into the body's sanctum. Once within, Treponema pallidum performs a sinister dance with the immune system, a fleeting fever, a pulse of inflammation. The body's initial defiance fades as if the invader has been vanquished. Yet, this is a deception. By subtly altering a single gene, the bacterium cloaks itself in new proteins, rendering it invisible to the sentinels of immunity. Antibodies falter, immune cells wander blindly, and the microbe multiplies in secret. Unlike its swifter kin, which replicate in mere minutes, Treponema pallidum divides languidly, once every 30 hours. This deliberate pace is no weakness, but a calculated stratagem, keeping its numbers below the threshold that would rouse the body's defenses. Thus, it spreads, a silent tide, coursing through veins and tissues, undetected, unchallenged. In laboratories, this phantom defies cultivation, mocking the tools of science. It thrives only within the human host, a parasitic pact that binds it to mankind's fate. From the courts of kings to the hovels of the destitute, it moves unseen, its presence betrayed only by the sores that mark its passage. Yet, these early signs are but whispers of the devastation to come, harbingers of a plague that would unravel both body and soul. The first whispers of Syphilis's treachery manifest in deceptive silence. 3 weeks after its insidious entry, a single painless sore, a chancre, emerges at the site of infection, a fleeting mark that vanishes within a month, as if the body had banished its foe. Yet, this is no victory, but a cruel illusion. Treponema pallidum, ever the cunning deceiver, burrows deeper, its presence masked by the body's fleeting calm. In courts and villages alike, the afflicted, lulled into false security, carry on unaware of the silent storm brewing within. A merchant, his lesion healed, resumes trade. A lady of the court, her secret concealed, dances beneath candlelight. The disease, however, does not sleep. 3 to 6 weeks later, the second act unfolds, with merciless ferocity. Painful lesions erupt across the body, arms, chest, feet, and back, each a festering wound, teeming with the spirochete's malevolent brood. Fever consumes the flesh, lymph nodes swell, and hair falls in clumps, as if the body weeps for its own betrayal. These sores, unlike their silent predecessors, scream with agony and contagion, marking their hosts as pariahs in a society quick to judge. Whispers of divine punishment echo louder as families shun their kin and priests condemn the afflicted from pulpits of stone. Yet, after 4 weeks, these torments too recede, leaving the body outwardly restored. The silence that follows is a lie, for Treponema pallidum now enters its latent phase, a dormant predator, lurking for up to 15 years. In this prolonged stillness, The disease weaves its tendrils through the body's core, unseen and unfelt. The merchant, now aged, believes himself spared. The lady, now a mother, raises her children in blissful ignorance. Yet beneath the surface, the microbe bides its time. Its slow replication, a patient siege against the human frame. No symptom betrays its presence. No fever warns of its intent. Society, too, grows complacent, its fear dulled by the absence of visible scars. But this respite is a prelude to ruin, a quiet before the storm that would shatter hearts and minds in its final, merciless awakening. After years of deceptive silence, Treponema pallidum unveils its cruelest act. In the tertiary stage, a decade or more after its silent invasion, the spirochete awakens with a vengeance, targeting the body's vital conduits. The thoracic aorta, the grand artery of life, succumbs to chronic inflammation, its walls calcifying into brittle stone. Aneurysms swell, threatening to rupture, while the aortic valve stiffens, choking the heart's lifeblood. Palpitations haunt the afflicted, fatigue gnaws at their strength, and the spectre of heart failure looms. In the courts of old, whispers spoke of King Charles VIII, his once vigorous frame diminished, his decrees erratic, as if a royal heart faltered under an unseen curse. Yet, the mind suffers an even darker fate. The spirochete starves, neurons of oxygen, eroding the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, bastions of emotion and reason. Personality frays, memories dissolve, and hallucinations weave a tapestry of chaos. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher of boundless intellect, crumbled into madness, his pen silenced by a brain betrayed. Limbs grow numb, paralysis seizes the body, and the simple act of standing becomes a lost art. In an age before understanding, these torments were branded as insanity, but they were the anguished cries of a nervous system starved. Grotesque gummers, scarred, inflamed growths, erupt in soft tissues, disfiguring the flesh in a final mockery of human dignity. From first sore to final breath, syphilis's grim pilgrimage spans 10 to 30 years, claiming its victims through heart or mind. Yet, even in this abyss of despair, a glimmer of redemption awaited discovery. In the shadowed corridors of history, syphilis wrought not only physical ruin, but a profound torment of the soul. Its victims, marked by sores and suspicion, faced a society swift to condemn. The afflicted were cast as moral outcasts, their lesions deemed the wages of sin by a world steeped in piety. In villages, families turned from kin, doors barred against those bearing the pox's cruel brand. In grand courts, whispers of scandal shadowed the nobility, their secret afflictions hidden beneath silks and titles. A lady of the court, her beauty marred by unseen sores, cloaked her shame in silence, her heart heavy with the fear of discovery. The dread of symptoms returning after years of latency gnawed at the mind, a relentless spectre that shattered hope. This plague left its mark on the cultural tapestry of the age. Renaissance woodcuts bore grim visages, skeletal forms, their flesh ravaged by grotesque wounds, a mirror to society's fears. Poets wove tales of fallen virtue, their verses heavy with the weight of divine retribution. Ballads mourned the afflicted, their melodies echoing in taverns where the fearful gathered. Syphilis became a silent muse, its horror immortalized in art and song, a testament to humanity's struggle with its own frailty. Yet, amidst this despair, the seeds of salvation lay dormant, awaiting the light of science to banish the darkness that had long held sway. In the shadowed annals of history, syphilis stands as a grim testament to humanity's frailty. For 5 centuries, it wove a tapestry of suffering, its silent tendrils unraveling flesh, mind, and society's fragile bonds. From the courts of kings, where Charles VIII's ambition bore a cursed legacy, to the hovels of the shunned, it spared no soul, branding the afflicted with shame and despair. Its horrors, etched in grotesque sores and shattered minds, once seemed an eternal scourge, a divine judgment upon a flawed world. Yet, in this darkness, science kindled a flame of redemption. The discovery of penicillin transformed a death sentence into a fleeting ailment. With 6 million cases now cured each year, humanity's resilience, forged in the crucible of suffering, prevailed where once only ruin held sway. This tale of syphilis reveals a deeper truth. Even the mightiest fall before nature's unseen forces, and salvation lies not in divine mercy, but in the quiet toil of human ingenuity. As the echoes of this plague fade, one question lingers. What other silent predators lurk yet in history's unturned pages? For those captivated by such dark chronicles, subscribe, like, and share thoughts below to delve further into the shadows of the past.